Exeed VX, a large premium crossover of the Chery sub-brand, will soon enter the Russian market. In China, this model is known as Lan Yu and has been on sale since March 18 this year. Chinese Cars decided to study real reviews on the Exeed VX in the Middle Kingdom and, based on them, identified the main pros and cons that the first owners talk about. Judging by the reviews, the Chinese do not consider VX handsome. However, they note its laconic exterior, which, coupled with the dimensions, create a truly brutal image of the car. Of course, someone notices that the Exeed is too similar in silhouette to the BMW X7. But in general, the appearance of the model is original, and it stands out in the stream. Interior ergonomics. The interior of the flagship Exeed crossover looks very nice, and many Chinese have noted this as a plus. At the same time, the interior of the VX is not only stylish, but also thoughtful. The car has comfortable front row seats, a second row adjustable backrest, 6 cup holders, 4 USB ports, an outlet in the trunk, and much more. At the same time, among the advantages, the Chinese note the trunk of the crossover itself. It is not lost even with the third row of seats unfolded, still having a capacity of 450 liters. Well, if you fold the third and second rows of seats, you can get a flat surface. The launch version of Exeed VX in China does not spoil buyers with options, but we will talk about it later. In turn, more expensive configurations do not suffer from the word completely with such a problem. Customers are satisfied with the all-round camera, windshield projection, power trunk, wireless smartphone charging, and so on. Interior materials at hand are also made at a high level. In China, under the hood of the Exeed VX, you can find 2 Actico motors. One of them is familiar to us from TXL. This is a 1.6-liter turbo 4 with 186 horsepower. The senior engine of a large crossover has added up to 2 liters in volume and has a capacity of 254 horsepower and a torque of 390 Newton-meters. And if the younger unit does not match the dimensions of the VX a bit, there are no questions to its more productive counterpart in this regard. Tests have shown that the 390T version can accelerate to the first 108.14 seconds. At the same time, it is also possible to slow down on an almost 5-meter car. The Chinese noted that the brake pedal settings are very successful, and you quickly get used to them. And auto home testing showed that the VX is capable of stopping from 100 km per hour to 0 in an incredible 36.8 meters. For comparison, the lighter Geely Atlas Pro showed a result of 38.24 meters. As for the ELK test, that is, the test to avoid obstacles, Exeed coped with it at a speed of 69 km/h. This is considered a decent result for a crossover of this size. This item, most likely, has already made lovers of the Japanese car industry grin sarcastically. After all, how can you evaluate the reliability of a car that has been on the road for less than a year? But we highlighted this item in the context of long trips. The fact is that some owners of VX several times set off on a journey of 10,000 kilometers. At the same time, the flagship Exeed confidently withstood such trips. All the advantages below can be reduced to one denominator: comfort. This item also flashed more than once in reviews of Exeed VX. Of course, in many ways this, like design, is a subjective point. But we have already figured out that the flagship of the premium Chery sub-brand has good ergonomics, dynamics, reliability, and so on. After all, it is no coincidence that fans of long trips choose the VX. From these factors, in many respects, the overall comfort is formed, which the owners of this car spoke about. We mentioned above that interior materials are often noted by owners of the VX as its virtue. However, new cars have a slight smell of cheap plastic. Of course, we are not talking about a sharp aroma, but Chinese buyers expected better from a premium crossover. However, over time, the smell disappears from the car, not reminding of itself. Many Exeed VX owners noted that the car did not have very good sound insulation. The noise of the wheels while driving is mainly mentioned. Perhaps the point here is the crossover tires themselves, Maxxis Victra Sport 5. Interestingly, the measurements showed a quite moderate noise level of 65 dB at 120 km/h, the same result for Toyota Highlander and Volkswagen Tiguan. The average combined consumption of the front-wheel drive version of the VX is 9 liters. The modification with all-wheel drive is 10.7 liters. At the same time, the crossover, released in March 2021, in all trim levels was equipped with a fuel tank of only 50 liters. Obviously, this volume is not enough, especially for long trips. It is noteworthy that in China, Exeed has already worked on the bugs by releasing modifications to the market with the fuel tank increased to 65 liters. Despite the large size of the Exeed VX, buyers noted the lack of space in the third row of seats. For the most part, it is designed specifically for children. Perhaps this is due to the fact that the company's engineers tried to save the trunk volume as much as possible. The maximum available legroom is 720 millimeters. At the same time, with the second row shifted back, the space is compressed to 530 millimeters. The pillows themselves for the 6th and 7th seats are also relatively short and low. Exeed VX is optionally available in China with all-wheel drive. However, at the first glance at this car, it becomes clear that it is not designed for off-road use. The handsome bumpers shorten the VX's approach and departure angles by up to 18 and 20 degrees, respectively. At the same time, the system of torque distribution to the wheels does not work very well. The 20th rollers torn off the ground are actively spinning, and those on which the weight of the massive Exeed rests stand still. With 3 unsupported wheels, the crossover cannot get off the ground. Obviously, the element of VX, in which he feels confident, is the track. Thus, we see that the Exeed VX is a machine that has both worthy pluses and annoying minuses. And how the premium crossover will be accepted in our market, we will be able to see this fall.